So problem number 1 just says to multiply. So we want to do 4x times 5x plus 7. Well, when you multiply that, all you're doing is using the distributive property. So you're saying 4x times 5x plus 4x times 7. You're taking the 4x and you're multiplying it by both of those terms behind the parentheses. Okay, so when you do that, 4 times 5 would give you 20. X times x would give you x squared. And then we've got 4 times 7, which is going to give us 28. And we only have one x here. So your answer here is going to be 20 x squared plus 28 times x. Okay. So on this next problem, we've got p times 6p plus 5 times 6p minus 5. When we were working these type of problems, we kind of did some of these yesterday. I would do this, multiply these two first. And then when we were doing them yesterday, we put a box. We said, okay, so I'm ignoring this p on the outside right now. I'm going to do that in the end. So 6p plus 5, I could put 6p, since it's a positive 5, it's just going to be 5. On the top of this, I would put 6p, and then I'm going to put negative 5 or minus 5. And I'm going to get the answer to this, and then I'm going to come back and write that answer here. Then I'm going to multiply by the p in the end. Okay, so 6 times 6, that's going to give me 36. P times p is p squared, so 36p squared. 6 times negative 5 is negative 30, and then we just have this extra p. This is going to be 5 times 6p, so 5 times 6 is 30p. And then 5 times negative 5 would go right here. 5 times negative 5 is 25. These two terms just have regular p's, not raised to any power. So a 30p minus 30p, those cancel each other out. That would turn into 0. I don't have any other p squareds. So 36p squared is going to be part of my answer here. And then minus 25. And I'm going to take this and multiply, use the distributive property and multiply it by both things. So p times 36p squared is going to be 36. Remember that this is p to the first power. And when you multiply exponents or multiply things that have the like letters, the exponents get added. So this would be p to the third. And then p times negative 25 would be negative 25p. So my final answer here would be 36 p to the third minus 25p. Problem number 3. Here's what you want to write down here. Okay. Again, these are all y's. and we are multiplying them. And when you multiply, if they're all y's, you're supposed to add the exponents. So we're just getting 2 plus 9, which is going to be 11, plus 8, which is going to be 19. So this is going to be y to the 19th power. Okay, number 4. This is the problem that you'll want to write down. It's important that you do these brackets first. So you would do, you're going to simplify this little part first. So we're going to do, what is 7m squared plus 3m minus 5 minus 5m cubed minus 3m plus 4? So when you have a minus in front of the parentheses, that makes everything behind the parentheses be the opposite of whatever it is. So this doesn't have anything in front of the parentheses. So 7m squared plus 3m minus 5 is going to stay the same. But if this was a positive 5m to the third, it's going to become negative 5m to the third. This is a negative 3m, so we want the opposite of that. So we would do positive 3m. And this is a 4, and we want to do the opposite of a positive 4, so it's going to be negative 4. Okay, so I like to write my answer in descending order. Now we're still not completely done because we also have this minus whatever this is, but we'll take care of that in just a minute. The highest power exponent I see is this m to the third, and I don't see any more of those. So minus 5m to the third. I do see an m squared here. I see a 7m squared, so it's positive, and I don't see any more of those. I see a positive 3m and another positive 3m, so that would be 6 m's. Those can go together. And then I see a negative 5 and a negative 4, and negative 5 minus 4 is negative 9. Now we're supposed to do this part of it now. Haven't done that, so we still need to subtract off m squared plus m. So we have so far negative 5m to the third plus 7m squared plus 6m minus 9. Now this minus in front of these parentheses means that it's going to be the opposite of whatever it is right now. And it is a positive m squared, so it's going to be negative m squared. And it's a positive m, so it's going to be minus m. So I'm looking through here. I don't see any other m to the third, so I'm going to write that down. This time, I do have a positive 7m squared, and this would be minus 1m squared. If there's no number there, it's a 1. And so 7 minus 1 would be 6m squared. Okay, I have a 6m minus 1m. Those are like terms, so 6 minus 1 would be 5m. And then I just have my minus 9. There's no other number to go with that. So the final answer on this one is negative 5m to the third plus 6m squared plus 5m minus 9. Okay. So number 5 says 5x minus 6 squared. Please, please, please keep in mind when we're squaring something, we're multiplying it by itself. So 5x minus 6 squared means 5x minus 6 times 5x minus 6. Okay, and the way that we work these problems, we've got 5x minus 6, and then we've got another 5x minus 6. I like to draw the box. It's the exact same thing as using FOIL. If you want to use first out or inner last and that works for you, that's perfectly fine. I have no problem with that, but I want to make sure that this is just another method that helps you kind of organize it to me a little bit better. But 5 times 5 is 25. X times x would be x squared. Then you would do 5x times negative 6. Well, 5 times negative 6 is negative 30x. And then this bottom would be 5x times negative 6, so negative 30x. Negative 6 times negative 6 is positive 36. Okay, so we're just taking each thing and multiplying. And then we're going to write out our answer by combining like terms. So I see one thing that has an x squared in it, and that's it. So 25x squared is my highest power of exponent. I do see a negative 30 and another negative 30. So negative 30 minus 30 is negative 60x. So those two could go together. And then we've got a positive 36. That's going to be our answer there. So this is one I think that let's write this number 6 down, and I'm going to give you a chance to respond to your answer in chat on this one to get attendance points. I am going to get you started. So when you're wanting to raise something to a power in chat, you want to do the button that's right above the 6 that has the caret. So if you wanted to do, if you wanted to write x squared, you would say x caret 2, something like that, if you're responding in the chat. But to start this one, 8x to the 4th plus 5x third minus 1, there's nothing in front of that. So the very first thing I'm going to do is just rewrite that without the parentheses. This minus is in front of this parenthesis, so that means that I need to do the opposite of whatever is here. So the opposite of a positive 9x squared would be negative 9x squared. The opposite of a negative 3x is going to be positive 3x. And the opposite of a positive 1 is a negative 1. Okay, so from here, let's see if you can reduce it down to what's going to be here, and let's type that in the chat. You want to combine like terms. Give you a minute to come up with the answer for that. I'm so sorry that I was on mute. Let me fix that real quick. I think we were. Don't remember exactly what problem I was on. I am so sorry, but on this last one we just worked, we've got p to the 7th and q to the -5th. Well, the -5 is, we can't have a negative exponent. So to get rid of it, we move it to the bottom of a fraction. If the negative exponent was on the bottom of the fraction, we would move it to the top. But that's all we have to do is get rid of that negative exponent. Okay, number 10 is asking you to match several things. So I'm just gonna, so number 10, here's the first problem that we have to work. So I would do, you're gonna do 4 times 7, and then you're doing x to the 3rd times x to the 8th. Well, 4 times 7 is 28. And then you're going to add the exponents here. So because you're multiplying and they both are x's, you're going to add the 3 and the 8, and you're going to get 11. So 28x to the 11th, that's b over here. Okay, on this one, we're doing -4 times 7, and then x to the 8 times x to the 3rd. I'm just putting the numbers together. Well, that's going to get me -28, but still x to the 11th because you're going to add the 8 and the 3. So that's D right here. 4 times x to the 8th to the 3rd. Well, that's the same thing as saying 4 to the 3rd times x to the 8, I'm sorry, 4 to the 3rd times x to the 8th to the 3rd. Well, 4 to the 3rd means 4 times 4 times 4, which is 64. And then these two would get multiplied because we're saying we want x to the 8th 3 times. So that's going to be 8 times 3, which is 24. This one's A, 64 x to the 24th. Okay, this is similar. We've got -7 x to the 3rd to the 3rd. Okay. Now, this negative, this is a little bit tricky on this one. So we've got -7 to the 3rd, and then x to the 3rd to the 3rd, because this 3 needs to go with both of these things. Well, -7 times -7 times -7, it's -343. And then x to the 3rd to the 3rd, you would just take those two and multiply them and get x to the 9th. So that's C right here. Okay, so that one's multiple choice. Okay, so on this one, we're subtracting. So we are saying, I'm going to kind of write this a little bit different over here, but this basically means 7x to the 4th minus 1x to the 3rd minus 2x to the 4th plus 5x to the 3rd. Okay, so this minus is very important here. It goes with both of these things. So 7x to the 4th minus 2x to the 4th would be 5x to the 4th. -1x to the 3rd minus, see, this minus goes with this 5. -1x to the 3rd minus 5x to the 3rd is going to get you -6x to the 3rd. And that's it. That's what goes in this box. Number 12. We have a -6 on the outside of this parentheses here that we want to distribute to every single thing on the inside of the parentheses. So we want to say, when we're doing this, we're saying -6x squared times -9x squared. Then we're moving to the next thing. We've got a plus here. So plus -6x squared times the x, and then minus -6x squared times the last term, which is 3. Now, I already put the minus right here, so that's where that minus went to. So I didn't want to list it twice. I already listed it here. And so I didn't put it with the 3, but it could have gone anywhere, either place. If you did it the other way, you would put plus and then put a minus here. It doesn't matter. Maybe that way would be a little bit more consistent. So -6 times -9, 54. X squared times x squared, you're going to add the exponents. -6x squared times 6, well, that's going to stay negative. And then x squared times x, well, this is x to the first, so you're going to add those. And then on my last two, -6 times -3 would be a +18. And then we've got x squared. There are no like terms here, so this is going to be your answer. Give you a minute to catch up. I feel like I'm going a little bit too fast. So write down problem number 13. You'll for sure want to jot that one down. If you need to, I'm going to continue to record this. If you need to log off, it's 1 o'clock. So if you were not going to stay for lab and you need to go to work or whatnot, that's fine. I'm going to continue to record this and I'll post it, both the paper copy and the review. So you can fill it in if you want to. Okay, so on this one, I like to do this. I like to separate it out into two different things. So I would write down 18x to the fourth over 6x, and then minus 24x to the third over 6x. We got two things going on. The first thing we have to do is simplify this number. So if you type in your calculator the fraction 18 over 6, it's going to tell you that it's just 3. 18 divided by 6 is just 3. And then with your numbers, with your variables, when you divide, you are subtracting. So this is an x to the first. So x to the 4 minus 1. So on this first part, we're going to get 3x to the third. Okay. Same thing here, 24 divided by 6. That's going to come out as 4. And then you would do x to the third. And this on the bottom is a 1 because it's raised to the first power. And so you would get 4x squared. So the final answer here would be 3x to the third minus 4x squared. Number 14. This problem is very similar to that. I'm going to give you just a chance to write this first part down. Okay, so again, I like to separate these into separate statements. So I would have, I need to make everything over this negative r to the fifth. Okay, now, every single one of these, I'm sighing there because when it says negative, that just means -1. I think I'm going to go back and put that on every one of these because there's a negative there. Well, it really means -1 r to the fifth, just so that it makes it a little bit easier for us to think about. So when we talk about this -2 divided by -1, well, that's just 2. R to the 7 minus 5. Remember, you subtract when you're dividing. Plus 5 divided by -1, well, that ends up being -5. And then r to the fifth over r to the fifth, well, those are going to cancel out. Okay, this would be a -2 over -1 because the minus would go with it. So it's going to be +2 and r to the second minus r to the fifth. Okay, so we've got 2. 7 minus 5 is 2. Plus -5 is just -5. And on this one, we've got 2 plus 2. 2 minus 5 is -3. Now remember, negative exponents are not legal. So we're good up until then. So 2r squared minus 5. The 2 is perfectly fine being on the top of the fraction, but we can't have a negative exponent, so we're moving it to the bottom. So this is the final answer here. 2r squared minus 5 plus 2 divided by r to the third. Number 15, they're wanting us to write 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 in exponential form. Well, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those. So that problem is pretty easy. It's just 3 to the 6th. Number 16, you're multiplying, so you would multiply the numbers, -8 times 9, and then x to the 9th times x to the third. Well, this is going to be -8 times 9 is going to be -72, and then 9 plus 3, so -72 x to the 12th. On number 17, okay, we're dividing, so we would subtract the exponent. So 2 to the 2 minus 5. I'm going to show you 2 different ways to do this problem because some of you probably will have an easier time with the other way, but x to the 8 minus 6, well, that's going to leave me with 2 to the -3 because 2 minus 5 is -3, and x to the second. Well, that -3 can't happen. It has to move to the bottom. So I would end up with x squared, and 2 to the third is just 8. Another way to work this problem is to go, well, 2 squared is 2 times 2. X to the 8, I would list 8 x's. Not fun, but it doesn't take too long to do that. And then 2 to the 5th over x to the 6th. Again, not fun, but it doesn't take too long to do that. And then I would cross out anything that had a match. Crossing out anything that has a match. And I must not have written down 8 x's because I'm too short. So on the top, you can see that you're left with 2 x's, 2 times 2 times 2 on the bottom, which is 8. So either way, I mean, that's going to work. This is the shortcut of how to get that, but you can also write it out and get those to cancel that way. Number 18 is asking us to divide this. So 32, x to the 6. I like to separate them out. The bottom is going to stay with everything we do. So minus 20, x to the 5th over negative 4x squared plus 20x squared over negative 4x squared. (32) divided by negative 4 is negative 8. Then we've got x to the 6 minus 2 because we are dividing. 20 divided by 4 is 5. And it's a negative 20 divided by negative 4, and negative divided by negative ends up being positive. X to the 5 minus 2 for my exponents. And then 20 divided by negative 4 is negative 5. X to the 2 minus 2, which basically means those are going to cancel out. But negative 8, x to the 4th, plus 5, x to the 3rd, minus 5, because x to the 0 is just 1. So this is our final answer on that one. On number 19, we've got 7. This is the thing where you can use FOIL if you want to, but 7w plus 2f, and then 7w minus 2f. So 7 times 7 is 49, and w times w is w squared. 7 times negative 2 is negative 14 wf. 7 times 2 is 14 wf. So we've got both of those. And then we've got 2f times negative 2f, which is going to be negative 4f squared. These two both have wf's in them. One of them is negative and one of them is positive. So when you do negative 14 plus 14, that's going to turn into 0. So on this problem, you're left with your 49w squared in the first box minus 4f squared in this bottom box. That's the final answer on that one. On number 20, it says to combine like terms. And so we've got negative 5z squared plus 2z squared, and negative 5 plus 2. It's negative 3 z squared. And that's going to go in this box right here, because it can be simplified. They're both z squareds, so we are able to add them. That's the end of the review, and I will post this video tonight